This week on the Hollywood and Toto Podcast, we ask what we actually learned from Kimmelgate, besides the fact that Jimmy Kimmel got a week off of work. And we talk to actor Wasim No'mani about his new show, The Promised Land. It's like The Office, but biblical. Hang with us. It's actually pretty good.
Welcome to the Hollywood and Toto Podcast. Entertainment news and reviews without the woke Hollywood narrative. Free speech, free expression. Now that's entertainment. And here's your host, award-winning film critic, Christian Toto.
He's back. Did anyone actually expect Jimmy Kimmel to go away forever? Nor should he really. But yes, Jimmy Kimmel was back on the airwaves this week after his week-long vacation for, well, sharing an absolute ugly lie. And he's back, well, for now. I mean, we still don't know the whole story here. There are different affiliate groups which are still boycotting Kimmel's show. Will they turn over and play dead, or will they stick to their guns and keep him off the air indefinitely? Stay tuned. This is not over by any stretch. But we can also draw some real genuine truths out of the whole situation. And don't look to the media because they are just absolutely flooding the zone with lies and misdirections and absolute silliness over and over again. A threat to democracy. My gosh, they are just full of it. Truly full of it. Although I will say my favorite story came from Variety, because Variety said that I can barely get the words out. Jimmy Kimmel, according to Variety, is not a movement liberal. Yeah, the guy who's been pushing Democratic talking points for a decade, the guy who's been at war with Trump for a decade. Oh yeah, and the guy who hosted President Biden's fundraiser last year, and then after President Biden glitched out in front of everyone for all of us to see, Jimmy Kimmel said, "Oh no, you can't trust your eyes. I was there. Nothing like that happened. Move along."
He is such a liar.
But still, let's break down some of the things we did learn from Kimmelgate, because they are important and we should separate fact from fiction. First of all, and this is maybe the most obvious thing, he's not sorry. He didn't really apologize. He danced around the issue. He kind of skirted the truth a bit, seemed remorseful. He whipped up the tears. Boy, who cries better than Jimmy Kimmel? That guy, he's a blubbering mess. My gosh, have some shame, have some decorum, will you, Jimmy?
Get a hold of yourself!
He's not sorry, because if he was sorry, he would have said the night after he said those terrible things, "I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I'm going to correct the record." Didn't do it then, didn't do it now. Again, came close, looked like he might be apology adjacent, but he never directly addressed the issue, never apologized. He's not sorry. He couldn't even fake it. And of course, he spread more misinformation along the way. Not only was he painting himself as a free speech martyr, not by any stretch of the imagination, but he also insinuated and or said that it was President Trump who silenced him. Well, you know why we know that's not true? Because in a week he was back on the air. Dictators and authoritarians, well, when they silence you, you stay silenced.
To the dungeon!
You don't take a week off and go back better than ever, saying the same old things. That's exactly what Jimmy Kimmel did. He wasn't silenced. He's not a free speech martyr. President Trump didn't do it. Now, President Trump, again and again, says some dumb things about free speech from time to time. And then he doesn't follow up on them. Thank goodness. He's blustery. He's a blowhard at times. It just is who he is. I think it's one of his least appealing qualities, for sure. And he shouldn't say it, especially in this atmosphere. But he doesn't follow up on it. He bloviates, he sends out a Truth Social post, and then he carries on his merry way, okay? That's what we've seen for a decade. Get used to it, understand it. When you see direct action, then you call it out. We didn't see it. That's the truth. Oh, and by the way, Kimmel didn't say boo about the Google news. And if you don't know the Google news, well, maybe you should look into expanding your news horizon, because it's a huge story. Google announced this week that they have been censoring people for sharing the wrong information on COVID, on the pandemic, and on election integrity. And I'm sure other issues as well, but they mention those first and foremost. So because the Biden administration pressured Google, and Google did as told. Many people were censored. That's direct government interactions with free speech. And Jimmy Kimmel, who knew of that, or must have known about it, or should know about it based on his gargantuan writing staff, didn't say anything. If you're going to be a free speech warrior, you got to walk the walk. And he didn't. So he's a phony and a fraud.
God grant us the wisdom and the strength to oppose the hypocrisy that disfigures her.
And now, given all that, it's good that Kimmel is back on the air. He should be back on the air. I think a 1 to 2 week suspension probably was the best way to send a message. And he got 1 week, so good enough. I think he should be aware of the outrage about his comments. And again, what he said wasn't offensive. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't an oopsie. It was an attempt to slander an entire political movement at a time where one of their significant leaders was gunned down in cold blood. It doesn't get much worse than that. And, by the way, kudos to Megyn Kelly for sharing receipts about what Jimmy Kimmel has said in the recent past. Jimmy Kimmel was once slandered by Aaron Rodgers, who said, maybe that Jimmy Kimmel guy's on the Epstein list. Well, there's no factual basis for that whatsoever. And in saying so, Jimmy Kimmel defended himself, and good for him, he should. But along the way, he mentioned, my monologue is fact-checked to the brim, and I've got a team behind me, and they know it's fact and they know it's fiction. They check things out, and they make sure what I'm saying is the honest truth. And if I ever make a mistake, a hiccup, I'll come on the air and apologize. He said that about 1.5 years ago. Clearly didn't mean it. Or he meant it at the time, but he wanted to smite MAGA so badly, he couldn't help himself. Sometimes people reveal themselves in times of crisis, and we're seeing the real Jimmy Kimmel right now. It ain't pretty. I think the main lesson from this is that the left, by and large, and Jimmy Kimmel specifically, he doesn't give a damn about free speech. Nope, not at all. His free speech, oh yeah. Everyone else's, it's a case-by-case basis. Jimmy, do better, please. Maybe this will be a learning moment, an opportunity to realize that free speech does matter, no matter who's sharing it, no matter who's flexing it. If he doesn't learn that by this, he'll never learn. And now, the headlines. We don't need another reason to hate the United Nations. Listen, on paper, United Nations, wonderful. It's an important, powerful group. In reality, cozying up to dictators is the least of their problems. It is a mess. And that came to mind this week when we heard about Violet Affleck. She's the daughter of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner. And she, for some reason, appeared at the UN. Pretty big gig, right? Hey, I'm at the UN. And she wanted to promote getting us all back into wearing masks for the COVID-19 pandemic. It's 2025, and this young woman, God bless her soul, thinks we should all be masking up again. Never mind the fact that the pandemic is over, that the virus is nowhere near as consequential as it once was, and masks don't work.
Not even a little bit.
I don't want to pick on Violet Affleck. She sounds like a troubled young woman. Clearly, I'm not going to even say a word against her. But why in the world is the UN inviting her to speak before the august body? That's absurd. But just throw it in the pile. The UN is just the king of absurdities. They just got worse this week. Why would anyone let Rob Reiner back behind a camera? Now listen, for a while, a long while, Rob Reiner was amazing. You know the track record, right? Stand By Me, Misery, The Princess Bride. This is Spinal Tap. The Sure Thing. If you haven't seen The Sure Thing, go find it. It's hard to find, but just do your best. It's a wonderful, sweet, charming film. A Few Good Men. The list goes on. When Harry Met Sally. American President. This guy had a run like few directors ever. Amazing. And now, movie after movie after movie, dud after dud after dud, box office bomb after box office bomb. I mean, it's over, Rob. I don't know what happened. I feel badly for you, but you just can't make good movies anymore. It's clear.
Feels like the end of an era.
And then along comes the Spinal Tap sequel, Spinal Tap, The End Continues, and it's a box office bomb. As I'm recording this, made about $2.6 million in pretty wide release. That's a disaster. Now, I don't know if Trump derangement just affected his ability to direct a film. I don't know if he just creatively lost it. I don't know what's going on. But I do know, in addition to maybe not letting him behind the camera anytime soon, maybe don't have him on talk shows where he shares his political views. Here's what he said recently, of course, about you-know-who. So we're now in a place where we are really wrestling with whether or not we're going to have a constitution, whether or not we're going to have the American form of democracy, and the First Amendment is right at the core of it. Well, the good news is he can say whatever he wants, wherever he wants. The bad news is we have to hear it. Rob Reiner, maybe you need a little counseling as well because things aren't going well, professionally or personally, apparently. Well, The Savant will have to wait. This is a new Apple TV Plus series starring Oscar winner Jessica Chastain. She plays an investigator who's tracking down those darn white supremacy groups out for violence. Yeah, really, in 2025, we're still worried about white supremacy. Well, at least in Hollywood we are. But the complicating factor here is they pulled the show. They pulled the show because of the Charlie Kirk assassination. They thought it wasn't the right time. And of course, at least one outlet blamed this again on Donald Trump. No facts, no sort of connective tissue, just blame Trump for X, Y, and Z. But the real funny story behind this is, first of all, you don't pull a show. There's violence everywhere in the news. It happens. It's terrible. If you're proud of the show, if you think it's a good program, put it out there. We don't care. But more importantly, a movie's opening this very week that really is more problematic in this fashion. It's called One Battle After Another. It's a new Leonardo DiCaprio film from the great Paul Thomas Anderson. A little overrated, but they call him great. I'll run with it. And it's a story about this sweet, lovely group of radical activists who bomb government buildings and force, by gunpoint, ICE-like officials to release illegal immigrants. That's the story. It doesn't attack these radicals. It doesn't judge these radicals. It really praises these radicals. They're painted in a very positive, sweet light. And just as this story is coming into theaters nationwide, there was an attack on an ICE facility. 2 or 3 people killed. The news is still rolling in. And the person who did the shooting, who took his own life afterwards, had anti-ICE slogans on his bullets. Again, here we go again. So here's a Hollywood studio promoting a movie that justifies violence, that glorifies violence, that directly targets those who try to enforce the borders. And we've got a situation like this. Now, I don't want to pull The Savant. I don't want to pull this movie One Battle After Another. But boy, the timing is just plain ugly. The great TV show The Office, of course, based on the British show, gave the sitcom a very fresh and unconventional twist. The show proceeded as if it were a documentary, that someone was capturing the trials and tribulations. So well written. The cast was exemplary. I mean, Rainn Wilson, Steve Carell, John Krasinski, just epic in every way. A great show. And then they tried that again to a lesser extent, not as obvious, with Parks and Recreation, another wonderful show led by the great Leslie, played by Amy Poehler. Well, they're trying it one more time. It's called The Paper, and it's set in a small town newspaper, and it's from some of the same creative people behind the original Office, the NBC version, and it's okay. It's fine. I want to always give a show like this room for growth, but so far it's watchable and nothing more. But there's another show that's using this template. It's called The Promised Land, and it's a story about Moses, about the mission he had, about becoming an unconventional leader. It's about biblically accurate storytelling, and it's told in that Office-like style. Now, when I heard about this, I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds risky as heck, and there's no way they could pull it off. It just seems impossible. Well, they did, according to the first couple episodes I've seen. Very, very funny.
When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you.
These are my people, ready to listen, eager to learn. I Why can't the whole nation be like this?
This is all the water I have left.
You have water!
Give it to me! No, take it!
49 days with the Hebrews, and still no one suspects me.
It's time to demonstrate trust. I'll go first.
Well done, Cora. Very impressive.
It's got those camera confessionals, the workplace bickering, all these different wonderful elements from The Office are in this biblically based show. So smart, so good. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have the key star from the show, Wasim No'mani, on this program. He plays Moses, this conflicted hero, this essentially like a boss-like character trying to work around what's going on in his life and in the world around him. It is very clever, and he does a wonderful job with the show. Now, The Promised Land is going to be debuting October 1st on YouTube. You can check it out there very, very soon. But for now, we've got a chance to meet Wasim and talk to him about his life, his work, his fond memories of his father, and much more. It's a really sweet conversation, and it really shows you what you need to do to survive in Hollywood, how you need to just absolutely persevere, never give up, because Wasim never gave up, and look where he is today. Well, before we get to the show, which is obviously fun, and I got some big laughs out of it, I want to just find a little bit more about you. I understand you were your parents were actors, came to America at a pretty early age. How did you fall into the family business? Then we'll get into the Promised Land.
Well, my dad was a fairly prominent actor in Iraq. He was on Sesame Street. And, he had said that he's like, I'm like George Clooney over there, But this was all before my time. We came to the United States in '85 so he could pursue his higher education in theater, and he got his PhD in theater at Texas Tech in 1990, right before the Gulf War happened, and then so we couldn't return.
Yeah.
So. And, ever since I was little, I suppose there's a great percentage of offspring who want to do and end up doing what their parents have done.
That's true.
So, yeah. So I've always been, and that was the way my father and I bonded. He would show me James Dean films, Brand, Monkey Cliff, all that stuff from a very early age, And then, like, me and my sister are reenacting Streetcar, and I'm Stanley Kowalski, and she's playing Stella, as inappropriate as that is,
Yeah. Now, as it's nice to go with the family business, it's nice to have that bond, but acting is I don't have to tell you, is a very brutal business. The competition is fierce. Did he ever kind of say, son, maybe pump the brakes, maybe go to law or something? Or
no, my mom did. She knew how precarious it was, but I think he knew when he saw in me that that passion.
Yeah.
And, and it's so. It was. I didn't really book a livable wage job until The Chosen. And I'm in like my mid-30s, and I'm working with Postmates and doing Uber and stuff. So yeah, no, for sure. Self-doubt as an artist, if I can call myself that, is part and parcel of what it is, what it means to be. Because you never know if it's any good. You don't know if you're good. You don't. You'll get some positive feedback. You don't know if people are, just complimenting you just for its own sake, or whether you can do something. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's when I went to art school back in the day, and I always was mistrustful of the artists who thought everything they did was wonderful. So I think self-doubt is actually a very healthy and probably pragmatic way to approach it. So as much as it can be kind of, you beat yourself up, but I think it's a good quality to have, because you're always improving and trying to be better. When you think about what parents do for children, a lot of it is what they teach you, and a lot of it is sort of the unspoken things. I hope my boys look at what I do and say, oh, dad's doing X and Y, I'm going to be like him. Did you pick up things from your dad that maybe he didn't tell you as an actor, that you just kind of absorbed or witnessed or just watched him as with his process?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever he had a project, which is kind of rare when we were in America, he had to take a quote unquote regular job or whatever. But when he did have those opportunities, his devotion was fierce.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, if you're going to do something, do it as best as you can, even if it doesn't measure up. Just do it with every fiber of yourself. And I think, and how seriously he took his work. And it mattered to him, even if it didn't matter to anybody else. He would just be doing some community stage play somewhere. And I mean, the guy was just giving his flesh to it, and watching that and watching what stimulates that is that stimulation, that engagement. And that's really what I envy and what I try to get. It's not the hard work follows you already being engaged and intrigued. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned the Chosen changed things for you. Can you tell a little bit more about that? I mean, it's such a revolutionary show. It's been such a sensation. Very few pop culture shows break through the way the Chosen has. As an actor, can you maybe share the details of what that means to you and becoming on a platform that was so big?
Yeah, well, I joined in season 2, and I had never heard of the show before. Because season 1 had like a groundswell of a following. But to be perfectly honest, I always thought like faith-based material, apart from a couple of things, were usually low in quality for whatever reason. That was my judgment. And then I remember seeing the show, the first season, after my audition, and I was like, "Oh, what? This is actually good." And Eric Avari's performance as Nicodemus just stupendous. And I was like, "Oh wow, this is something that I can like sink my teeth into if I do get it." And it wasn't the show at that time that it is now, and it just constantly grew and grew and grew. And luckily, thankfully, I've been blessed to be able to be on the boat at the tip of the wave.
Let's talk about the Promised Land. On paper, it's the greatest idea I've ever heard of, and also kind of the craziest idea. This sort of mixing with this spiritual theme and classic stories and beloved text, and all of a sudden, it's an Office style comedy. Did you buy into it right away, or did you need to see something in action before you thought, "Oh, yeah, this can work. This is really going to work"?
Well, when I saw the breakdowns, I thought it was such a novel and tickling idea. But you got to read, and when you got to read the script. And when I read the pilot, I was like, "Oh wow, this might have some legs."
Yeah.
And but also, like, all right, just the beginning of Exodus, Moses believes in God, believes God is talking to him in the burning bush, and refuses him. He says, "No, I'm not your God." And he says it multiple times, and he keeps coming up with excuses. And his self-doubt is so intense that he doubts God. He doubts God's wisdom. And if God did create us in His image, your self-doubt ultimately is God doubt. At least that's the way I take it from this particular perspective. And there's something inherently kind of funny about that, as well as how many plagues do you need to go through, or you're like, "Okay, I've had enough." I mean, I feel like 10 is way. I think by like 3 or 4, I'm out.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So were you someone who watched The Office and Parks and Recs and show in this genre, or did you have to kind of go back and say, "I need to watch this to kind of get a feel for this style of humor"? What was that like?
Yeah, I was a big fan of The Office, in the early 2000s, 2005, 6, 7, and I kind of, stopped watching when Steve Carell left. But yeah, I hadn't really seen anything, of that mockumentary style.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then getting this, I went back and rewatched, some of it. I mean, that show is just so brilliant, and and being able to navigate that, we're dealing with serious material. And what's funny is not us, laughing and making jokes at the expense of the characters, but the situations that they're in,
I mean, I think one of the more powerful things about The Promised Land is it really humanizes the characters and makes them relatable in a way that I don't know if we've seen quite like this before. Talk about that element of the story where you're taking material which could be serious and sober, but still sharing that information and sharing some of the messages. It's a very tricky balance, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if we did succeed in that, I mean, I think all credit would go to Mitch Hudson, the writer. But it's the humanity. I mean, that's where the comedy comes from.
Yeah,
And it's very easy, you know, when you read or hear or watch stories about people, you know, long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're still us. It's the same hardware. The software is different in terms of belief systems and whatever. But yeah, it's the humanity. It's that's where the comedy should emanate from, you know. And yeah, I mean, because if you see like, you know, the Ten Commandments and you see Charlton Heston, you know, it's like this statuesque kind of, you know, but I mean, you can glean and infer that perhaps Moses wasn't like that, you know, and I think that was the jumping off point for Mitch, and that this guy did not. He spent the last 40 years with sheep, you know, in Midian. So like, what does he know about how to lead? Yeah.
We live in this age where if some movie or TV show gets something wrong, for lack of a better word, people are upset and they're, you know, sending out hashtags and things. And when you deal with biblical issues, you know, there's did you honor the source material? Is it spiritual? Is it correct? Is it what you like? What is it? What the other person? I mean, there's all these different shades of gray, and I think the tone and the sense I get from the show is that you kind of work that well, and you're not insulting people. But is that something that's kind of discussed on the set, behind the scenes, working with Mitch? Is it sort of to get sort of that right, where it's not perfect and there's creative license here aplenty, but you're getting the nuts and bolts of the story and of the sentiment, you know, on target.
Yeah, no, that's all Mitch. I mean, that he first and foremost, you know, I think his reverence for these people and these characters are kind of self-evident if you watch, and him just, you know, I mean, because there's so much source material to go through. You know, you've got to pick, and you know, he's the only writer on you know, on this project, so you know, you got to pick and choose your shots. And and he does talk about that in terms of like certain things that I'm like, well, this happened. He's like, yeah, but this is a family show. We're not really going into that.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Now, at this point, I know the show had this sort of interesting history. There was a pilot. It was very successful. Then you got the funding. It's been not a traditional path, but can you share how much has been shot so far? Is the whole first season sort of in the proverbial can, or has more been shot at this point?
Yes, the first season is in the can. We are releasing the pilot being the first episode, already released on YouTube. The second episode is being released Wednesday, October 1st. And then every week from then, they're going to be releasing the consecutive episodes.
Yeah.
We have 5 in the can right now.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm allowed. Yeah, I think I can say we're shooting.
Off on any further updates at this moment.
What's that?
Hold off on any further updates at this moment.
Okay.
There'll be an announcement that follows.
Who was that?
I know. That's the voice in my head.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about what you would like to see, or where the character of Moses can go. I mean, we know, but at the same time, as you know, as part of this story, what would you like to see, or what maybe different shades you may show along the way?
Yeah, I mean, what I really gravitated to was the self-doubt and the way that manifests itself. And then, you know, being somebody who does not see themselves as a leader. Because typically, you know, nowadays everybody is like raising their hands to be first in line to lead it. And God, you know, very interestingly chose somebody who was like, it's not me. And I think him overcoming that, I don't know what Mitch has in store, whether, you know, it resolves that internal issue, because I think we all deal, I shouldn't speak for everybody. But anytime I feel something, I'm like, yeah, everybody feels this, right? You know, and to be able to resolve that and see where that takes him.
You know, you hinted at something earlier, which I think was completely fair and honest. Faith-based stories for a while were a little rough around the edges. The acting wasn't maybe as crisp as it could be. The budgets were small. I mean, it was really a fledgling genre that didn't have a lot of bells and whistles. And yet in recent years, I mean, you know, even take away the Mel Gibson work, because he's working on this extreme level of craft. But, you know, we've seen faith-based horror movies, and we've seen comedies, and The Chosen is unto itself is such a sensation. What do you see happening within the space now that you've been in it to a degree?
I mean, I think, not necessarily just to talk turkey, but I think the fact that people see that they can make money, I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until Mel Gibson that, in The Passion of the Christ, that people saw, oh, wow, there is an audience for this.
Yeah.
So I do think it's just going to get better and better, and people are realizing that they can make really high quality shows, or films, with this material.
Yeah. As an actor who's breaking out now and getting more projects, it's such a curious time to be in your profession, because it used to be only a few film studios, only a few channels, and you were very limited. But now here's a show that's going on YouTube, and it's not because it's not good. It's like, this is a brave new world. Do you find yourself sort of creatively, is it exciting to be in this space right now where there's all these different platforms and the competition's making each of them better? I mean, you can't just put out mediocre product. If you do, it's going to get swamped by other things. So it just seems like it might be an exciting time to be an actor in this space.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always a precarious. I mean, you're never kind of safe. I mean,
yeah.
That were like huge 10 years ago. Like, where are they now? So So you're constantly on this fine line. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the opportunities are more abundant than ever. But it's just quality. Quality just comes down to quality. Is it good or is it not? No. Yeah, obviously you want people to see your work and you want to be on the platform that reaches the most people. But that's what I'm focused on. I just want really good material, because good material will make you a better actor.
Yeah.
Because you're not the same actor with that material as you are with, because you got to say things that, just feel clunky in your mouth and in your body, and et cetera, et cetera.
Two last quick questions. One, I don't know if you have any aspirations for writing or directing. Is that part of what you could see for your future? And also, I don't know if your dad's still alive, but has he seen the show? What does he think of it?
No, unfortunately, my father passed away in 2009. And all he saw me in was a community college production of The Elephant Man. And
I'm
it
sorry.
was actually really heartwarming. Oh, thank you. It was actually really heartwarming because, it was the first thing that I, kind of did in a public space.
Yeah.
I outside of drama class and doing stuff at home and everything. And he would not stop buying tickets and coming. He came like 6 times. And I'm like, Dad, you see the show. He goes, oh, I love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And any aspirations on writing and directing, or you're good, you're an actor and that's more than enough?
Yes, being an actor is already probably more than I can chew, but I would love, I have certain, in my fantasy world, yes, but I don't know if I have that kind of story acuity that requires, to be able to write the thing that I would admire,
Well, the career is young, so who knows what happens next. But thank you so much for joining the show, Wasim. Of course, this is about The Promised Land, which is going to be debuting on YouTube October 1st. New episodes each subsequent week. Do check it out. I know that there's a new paper out there on Peacock, and it's perfectly fine, but I found much bigger laughs in The Promised Land. So congratulations on the show. You're great in it, and hope to speak again sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christian. And
your character actor of the week is Sean Whalen. Well, that's it for the show this week. Again, just a quick reminder to check out HollywoodInToto.com. It is the website. It is my home base. It is, like this program, the right take on entertainment, news, reviews, commentary, all the things from Hollywood from a right of center perspective. And again, like this show, we try to focus on stories not being covered, media bias run amok, actors and artists who have great stories to tell, but just aren't getting enough attention. Things like that. That's what we specialize in here. So if you have thoughts along those lines, you think there's something in the cultural landscape that isn't being covered aggressively enough, or maybe ignored entirely, definitely send me a note. You can email me, Christian@HollywoodInToto.com. Easy enough to remember. Definitely weigh in. Let me know your thoughts. Send some ideas my way, maybe even an attaboy if you're enjoying the program. And if you hate us, feel free to send that too.
You stink, mister.
Anything goes, free speech. It does matter. Well, that's it for this week's show. Again, thank you to Radio America for having me as part of their great podcast lineup. Now go out there, have a wonderful week. Doctor's orders.